Also, did I mention that this book starts with an orgy? Straight up starts with an orgy? Like, first page orgy. I don't know. I don't like that. I mean, it was so weird. I feel like more books should start like that. I feel like more books should start with a full on orgy. Hello, my name is Lola. Welcome to my corner. Today we'll be talking about the book Gild by Raven Kennedy from the Plated Prisoner series. And why do I think this is a book that doesn't talk about greed but actually talks about corruption and violence? So, to start this video, I wanted to talk a little bit about the world building of Gild. I don't think the world building of Gild is bad. I actually think that this book has a very interesting premise. So, when it comes to retellings, especially retellings of popular myths, you need to be ready to give us something new. Like, you can't just say you're doing, like, I don't know, a Cinderella retelling and don't give us something new, something interesting, something different. And I'm not saying you need to go full Sarah J. Maas and make a Beauty and the Beast retelling where the beauty cannot read. Like, you don't have to do full on weird or all over the place like that. I'm not saying Akatar is weird and all over the place specifically, but it is, and I love it for that. But anyway, that's besides the point. I'm talking about guilt. Um, I feel like choosing to do a King Midas retelling is very interesting because that's something that I personally have not seen being done. And when I read like the summary of this book, I was very interested. I was very hooked because it seemed like it was going to be something interesting. But the focus of this book, I can tell only about the first book. I know that there are six in the series. I only gone a little bit in the beginning of the second. The first book doesn't give us a lot of King Midas. Actually, if I'm being honest, the first book doesn't give us a lot, period. That's not a bad thing. That's not a bad thing. It feels like this first book only purpose is to set up the world, and then I feel like we're getting a little more action in the next books. Some people that have read the whole series said it starts getting good at the book three. I will not comment on my personal opinion of books that start out really, really slow and you have to read a bunch of them to get to the good parts because I have done that before. I have fallen in love with books that you have to read a bunch of, and I have been the person that says, "Oh no, trust me, you just need to suffer a little bit and then it gets good." But uh, Guild has an okay world building, at least for now. I can only talk about the first book. So this book, like I said, is a King Midas retelling, and we don't have a lot of King Midas himself. The focus is on Oren, our protagonist, and she is the gold-touched lover of King Midas. And the book is basically all her POV, and I believe that the gist of it is that we're watching the world from a POV of a unreliable narrator. And I'm not saying unreliable in the way that she lies or she tells things that are not exactly the way that they are happening, but she's supposed to be very, very naive and like basically stupid at some point. And you're supposed to see that she's completely enthralled by Midas and that this is a bad thing and that she needs to get away from him. Like she needs to escape. She says, I am the golden plated prisoner, but what a pretty cage it is. And this is like, I'm not even joking. This is the beginning of the book. Like, it starts with that. Like the book is telling us that this is going to happen. Like it's very in your face that oh, she's a pretty bird, but she is going to escape on book two, I guess, because on book one nothing happens. And uh, I don't mind the story. Like it has, of course, King Midas stuff that they live in a castle. The castle is all gold. Everything that Midas touches becomes gold. It's not the original telling of King Midas where King Midas cannot stop touching stuff like a and like basically dies because everything he touches becomes solid gold. In this retelling, Midas can turn things just golden. And I guess that makes sense because the title is Gild. So Orin, for example, is not solid gold. She's a living being, but she has like a golden skin. She's golden on the outside. And we learn a lot of the things in the castle are not complete solid gold. They are just golden, like the curtains, for example. Specifically said, oh no, the curtains are just golden. They're not fully solid gold. But I have a problem with the fact that a lot of the stuff is solid gold. The book has some fae. They are like very in the background. We just learn that the fae exists, and Oren talks about them like they're the worst thing that has ever happened. But we know nothing about them. We just like learn little bits and pieces. I don't hate that. I kind of like that there's something to look forward to. That there's like lore that is like being dropped, bits and bits throughout the book. I don't love the naming choices. For example, Orin is just the Latin word for gold, which is, I have to say, kind of cool. Like, I don't hate it. I don't hate Orin being just gold. I just feel like, um, I don't know, she was gold touch. Like, she was not gold, and then at some point she became gold. So it's kind of interesting that she just started with the name, like with her name means gold. I don't know, but it's cute. It's cute. I feel like what's a little too much is the fact that the name of the place is Oria, because oro means gold in Spanish. So reading about Orin from Oria feels like I'm reading about Goldie from Goldie Land. A little bit on your face, a little bit. But I have seen worse names. I have seen worse names. I will not judge. I mean, I'm already judging these names, but these names are not bad. I feel like the world didn't need to be called gold. Like we could have a different name because it's only a specific part of this world where there's King Midas, and I don't know. I feel like it could have been something else. Maybe she chose it like in the beginning and she didn't talk too much about it. But anyway, I wanted to talk now about specifically about gold, which is the theme of this book, and it's supposed to be a very important thing in this book. And I feel like, I don't know, maybe I'm being too judgy, but if I was personally going to write a book about King Midas and about gold, I would do a quick Google research on gold. This book does not have that. So let's talk about the material gold, like the material from our world, because I'm giving this book grace that maybe this is magical gold, but I don't think it is. I think it's just regular gold. So let's talk about it. Anyway, gold is not the hardest material there is. It's actually very flimsy. And this made the beginning of the book kind of unbearable. I feel like the author realized by book two that gold was not supposed to be super strong because I'm not sure if these are even spoilers for book two, but in the very beginning, like literally the first chapter of book two, she talks about like how gold loses its luster very quickly and how it's like not the best material to have stuff, how it's a little bit on your face, like how it's gaudy and stuff. But in the first book, we have none of that. We actually have in book two, sorry, I know I'm talking about book two, but this is very funny. Oren says that she wishes that her spine was solid gold. And in the first book, we have mentions of gold just being this incredibly heavy material. So I wanted to talk specifically about the things that she says that are solid gold, not the things that are golden, not the things that shine, not the things that are painted gold, specifically the solid gold stuff. So her cage is solid gold. she would have been able to bend it if it was solid gold. If it was solid, 100% gold, a grown woman with her full strength would have been able to break through that cage. I'm not sure if easily. I don't know how thick the cage is, but she would have been able, and definitely it would not have been safe. Other people would have been able to break through her cage, like with not a lot of problem, if I'm being honest. Also, the castle has a bell, and she says that the bell is solid gold. No, honey, the bell cannot be solid gold. Especially a bell, because a bell has this very specific structure and it bangs on the inside of itself. If the bell was solid gold, it would be completely bent. Like, also, I don't even think the sound would be nice. Like, for starters, the sound would probably not be as nice, I think. But I mean, she says she hates the sound of the bell. Anyway, the bell cannot be solid gold. It cannot. It needs to be gold plated. It cannot be solid gold. Uh, makes no sense. And the reason for that is because, like I said, I think a million times, and I will say this a million times throughout the video, gold is kind of a shitty material. Like, let me explain. What I have over here is a fake gold leaf. All right, this is a fake gold leaf. Why do I know that this is a fake gold leaf? I mean, besides the fact that I bought it. So I can hold it in my hand. See, it is a very, very small sheet of gold, and I can hold it. If this was solid gold, if this was like 24 karat gold leaf, it would melt in my hands. Like I would have do this and it would be gone. And this one, as you can see, it still kind of has some properties to it. It's not the best, but solid gold just melts in your hands, specifically if it is this small. Um, Gold leaf cannot be touched by hand. If you do, like, if you have like one of those little leaves and you want to put it in food or art pieces and stuff, you cannot handle it by hand because it melts, like it literally melts with the warmth of your hands. Like this is gold. So like let's establish that this is gold. Gold is this very, very, very harsh material to work with because it's so flimsy. And another thing that I feel like is also very common, like a very common representation of gold, like if you have gold coins, back then, the reason why people bite coins is because if you wanted to know that something was actually gold, like 100% gold, or at least very pure gold, you would bend it with your teeth and it would snap. It would be flimsy because that's what gold is. Gold is flimsy. Like I remember I have seen people. I used to have a friend in high school who used to work with jewelry, and he said that like a lot of the times people would be like, "Oh, I want a solid gold ring because I don't know, I'm rich or something, and I want to show off, and I want to have a 100% gold ring. I don't want any other materials." And he would have to say all the time, "You can't." You can't have a solid gold ring because a solid gold ring would bend because gold is flimsy. Gold is not the best material. So gold can be strong. Gold can be useful. Of course, it is useful. It is a very useful material for a lot of stuff. We use it a lot, but it has to be melded with something else. It cannot be pure. It cannot be solid gold. So the idea of solid gold stuff is very funny for anyone that works with gold. So I kind of have this problem with it because those two things that I showed you, like the gold coin and the gold paper, like they are common knowledge, I feel. And even if they are not, even if I'm bringing out like something very niche, if you write a book about gold, the name of your book is Gild, look it up. Even if it's just to like give us an explanation, tell us this is magic gold, tells us that like give us a paragraph where you mention the fact that gold in this specific book is supposed to be a hard material. Give us something to work with because I know what gold is in my world. And I kept looking at the gold in this world and I had problems with it because gold is everywhere. We have hundreds upon hundreds of mentions of gold and it does not act like it's supposed to act. And I have seen other people with the same problem and I felt like this was one of the number one things that ruined my experience because I had to start thinking about this gold as something else because it's not how it works. And like, I don't know, I feel like it's Quicksilver all over again. Please, like, I need you guys to do some more research when you write those things because it's very, very weird. Like, it's, I guess it would be the same for someone like writing an animal, like, I don't know, a horse. And then you have a horse, and everyone knows what a horse looks like. And then you just casually say in your book that the horse laid an egg. And everyone's like, well, I personally know that horses don't lay eggs. So it causes this weird feeling that you are reading something that is a little off. So all of the description of gold in this book, in the first gold book, are very, very off. In the second book, it gets a little better, but it killed a little bit of the book for me. Now I wanted to talk about Oren, or protagonist. And I feel like the protagonist is very important in these types of books because this is clearly, a book where you go with, like, you grow with the protagonist. You learn with her, like, you find out things with her. So, Orion is very central to the narrative because in the original story, everything is kind of about King Midas, but in this story, we just have Orin and how she is just, in her cage and how she loves Midas. And we learn a little bit about her past with him, how they met before he was a king, and all of that stuff. But Orin is very, very hard to listen to. Like, she's very, very, very hard to listen to because I feel like Raven Kennedy wanted us to know that Oren is silly, Oren is naive, and Oren is so in love with Midas that she doesn't realize what's really going on. But I feel like she could have done this less in your face, book too much in your face. I feel like one of the biggest crimes this book has is making me feel like I'm dumb because you cannot make your reader feel dumb. I am capable of putting two and two together. Like, it was not that hard to understand that Midas is manipulative, that he's evil, and that Oren loves him, and because of that, she gets manipulated by him. It's not hard. It's not a hard conclusion, but we had it reassured multiple times throughout this book, and it was not necessary. It kind of felt uh, it felt weird, and I know it is supposed. I get it. This is a dark romance. This is not like a cutesy book. It's supposed to be harsh. It's supposed to be dark because when we read those dark books, when you've gone through similar things in your own life, you feel better. If you can relate to a character because we're seeing Oren, she's obviously in a toxic relationship. She's literally trapped in a relationship that she doesn't really want to be. I mean, of course, she loves Midas, but she doesn't have freedom. And that it's like if you have been through that or if you're going through that in real life, it's nice reading about a character going through the same things and breaking free of them. Let's hope. But the way that it sounds, the way that Oren acts is so cartoonish that I feel like even if I could relate to some specific experience she gone through, it did not specifically make me feel better about them. It actually kind of made me feel bad because I was like, wow, if I was ever like that, I kind of hate it because I hate this character and she's unbearable. She's she's really, really hard to, you know, listen to because all she talks about is nonsense. And but that is like my personal view on it. I feel like definitely a lot of people could feel really good, reading this book, could feel that like it's validating. and could feel empowered by it. So I don't judge the general message of it. I just feel like Oren was too cartoonish. She reads like a Disney princess. She reads like I'm watching Snow White. She has the same personality as Snow White, to be honest. And the book really wants us to believe that she is the best person ever, that she's just like absolutely the most amazing sweetheart ever. And we get that in two specific scenarios. The first one is when she throws a book at Risa. So that was really, really odd. That was weird. Like Risa is one of the other saddles, the other mistresses, I guess concubines of Midas, and she is dancing 3 hours non-stop, which is something else that I'm going to talk about. But anyway, she's dancing 3 hours nonstop. The men don't even care about her. Of course, Risa is super mean because everyone is so mean to Oren. And then she like goes to Risa and she says, "Do you want my help? I can try to make a distraction so you can, you know, relax a bit because I know you're tired." And I think Risa just tells her to like go fuck herself. She just says, "I don't need your help. I don't want your help. Get out." Which Orange should have been like, "Well, all right, I tried to help her. She doesn't want my help. Let me go on with my life." But no, she decides that she's going to non consensually help Risa, which is very interesting because I think about it and I feel like this situation could have been like Oren doesn't try to think about why Risa doesn't want help. What if Risa doesn't want help because if Oren draws attention to her, it could become worse for her. She could be punished. Because I kept thinking about this because we know that Oren doesn't know anything about the other Saddle's dynamics. So what if she does something that has bad consequences? Actually, it could have had bad consequences and we don't know about it because we don't know anything besides what Oren knows. And we know that Oren wants to help Risa, but she doesn't want to think about it. She doesn't want to be smart about it. So she just picks up the book that she's reading and she throws it hard at Risa's face. And like she gets a black eye, like Risa gets a black eye, like her nose is bleeding, is very, very ugly. And Oren is like, "Hmm, well, I did good." I mean, she says that she feels guilty because Risa got hurt, but in the end, she's like, "Wow, she got the night off, so I am happy," which is it's very self-centered. It's extremely self-centered help. And then we learn, like later in the book, when Sale is talking to her, which, by the way, Sale's only purpose in existence is to tell Oren how great she is. Like, he only exists to be like, "Yo, Oren, you did great. You're amazing. We love you." That's his only purpose. And then, you know, uh, and he says to her, "Oh, Oren, everyone in the castle knows what you did, and we all think it was great." And it kind of feels like I'm reading like a tweet from, I don't know, 2010. And it basically is like, "Well, I threw a book at her and everyone clapped." Like, it's so self-centered. And why? And again, if Oren herself felt like she done a good deed, I mean, she did a bad deed, but if she felt like she did a good deed, that was all that I needed. Like, if the author says to me, "Well, Oren did something good and she felt that she did something good," why would I need another character to reassure her that she did a good thing and that she is a good person? It feels like the book is really trying to convince us that even though Oren is privileged, she's rich, and she's protected, she is also a good person and she's still humble. And we didn't need that to be shoved in our faces. Like, we could have, you could have showed us that, but you didn't because nothing contributes to that. We know that Oren is very much self-centered and she only cares about herself a lot. And just because she's in a toxic situation doesn't mean that she doesn't try to understand people around her. Like, the Saddles really dislike her, and it feels like whenever she tries to approach them, she gets Instead of trying to understand them, she gets sad about herself and be like, "Oh, why don't you love me? I want everyone to love me." And it feels odd, like you don't know the situation of those saddles. You don't know if they want to be there. You don't know if they are slaves, you know. You could have tried to have a little bit more empathy. And situation number two, it's even goofier. Orang just like gets out of her horse in a poor part of town, and it's very funny because she gets to the poor part of town. It's just like, how can there be poor people? I thought there were no more poor people because the king is so rich. And I don't know, it kind of sent me a little bit because she was like, I didn't know there were poor people. And I'm like, girl, how am I supposed to like you if you do that? And then she's very shocked because, oh my God, how are there poor people? That is so weird. And she gets out of her horse, she gets her little gold purse, and she gives coins to the children. And then, while she's doing that, she realized that she probably put the children in danger because people in the place that she is would kill for money all the time. She actually put herself and everyone else in danger because she is made of gold, so everyone's tried to go after her. So I mean, she probably killed those children as well. Like we don't know. She probably like managed to do something even more horrible. Probably people died because she gave those coins away, and she didn't think about it. And I didn't like that a lot because Oren is not supposed to be someone who was always privileged. We learn in the book that before she was privileged, she was very poor. So I don't know, that's not the type of experience you forget. You don't actually, I find it to be quite the opposite. Whenever I meet someone that like didn't have a lot of money and now they have, they always try to be conscious about their money, or they, have empathy to the struggles of others. It feels like Oren got money and she lost her brains. And it's it's bad character development. It makes me dislike her. And I don't know, I kind of guess this is the point of it. But the book doesn't make us believe that Oren is like so naive and so stupid. The book wants us to think that she's amazing and that she's awesome and she's so good. And then Seo says, "Oh, you gave the money to the children. No one else would have done that. You are so nice. You are such a good person." And then he dies. Like, it's very weird. It's very weird. And there is another moment where she's, I think, still in my opinion, very self centered. But I'm going to talk about it in the next part, which is the fact that this book feels like a desert. It feels like a desert of goodness. And I want to talk about that. So, in this last part, I wanted to talk about something that I feel like I've talked before in this channel, because when I read Quicksilver, I had a lot of problems with the cruelty in the book. And when it comes to Gild, I feel like these problems are amplified. Gild is very cruel. And I know it's supposed to be a dark romance, it's supposed to be cruel. I get it. The book has a page of trigger warnings and it says that it's supposed to be a dark book. It's not supposed to be a fairy tale. I get that. But Guild overdoes it a little bit. And I am not saying that the problem are the acts of cruelty themselves. The problem is that they don't make sense. I have a problem with that. I had a problem with that in previous books that I've read, and I have a problem with it in Guild. So, for starters, Orin is a saddle, alright? So, she's one of the king's concubines, she's one of the king's women. And she says very clearly in the beginning of the book that before being King Midas' saddle, she was some type of prostitute. She says like she was human trafficked and that she had a life being a prostitute, and basically that she knows how it is to be very poor and all of that. Besides that, she has no empathy, basically. I mean, she kind of does, but she doesn't have any real empathy for the other saddles, because the other saddles, they don't want to talk to her, they don't have any interest in her because she's the favorite, and the other saddles are constantly competing the king's attention with her, even though the king doesn't touch her. So I feel like it is very off that in the 10 years, because we know that Oren has been with King Midas for 10 years in the castle, that she has been his saddle, that he has had multiple saddles, because she says that the saddles, like when they get a little old or if they get sick or something, they are changed at least. Uh, we know that there have been multiple people coming and going, out of her life, that those saddles, and none of them likes her. Like, I feel like because of the fact that she's the king's favorite, at least some of the saddles would try to have a good relationship with her, just because of that, just because she's the king's favorite. Because we're not talking about any king. We're talking about a king that can touch, like that can go touch anything. So it is described in the book that people are very attracted to his wealthy power, like with his wealth in general, and people want to get in his good graces. But somehow, no one cares about being in Oren's good graces. Why would that be the case? Everyone would be falling on themselves to be her best friend, to try and get something out of her. They mentioned sometime that like just a couple strands of her hair would be a year's salary for a peasant. You're telling me that no one want to get close to you? Like, no one wants to talk to you? That feels odd. That feels unrealistic. And it feels like it's created just again as a plot for senseless cruelty, for us to read the book and think, wow, Oren is so sad. She has no friends. I feel like it's kind of impossible that she would have absolutely not a single friend. And eventually she does. She gets one friend. But I have a very big problem with the one friend that she gets. So, besides having no friends in the saddles. The only other person that Orin interacts all this time is Digby, who is her guard. And he absolutely refuses to talk to her, to interact with her, because apparently those are King Midas' orders. So she keeps trying to talk with her, and he refuses to give her, like, even the slightest hint of a smile. And I get it, because since Midas really, really values keeping Orin away from everyone, it makes sense that Digby, wouldn't try to risk his life just to talk to her. But I still feel like in this book, all of the female characters seem stereotypical. All of the women are kind of evil, and the only good people are men, specifically men in positions of power. And I feel like that's an odd choice. Like, you're telling me that you are the king's concubine and you're clearly suffering. Everyone is actually kind of pitying you because you're trapped in a cage. Like, you're pretty much a prisoner. And you're telling me that the other girls would not take pity on you, or like would not try to see if everything's all right with you. It's so, like, it gives off a message that like women would not help each other, like there's no women's sorority and stuff. And I found that to be the opposite. I found that to, I mean, of course, I cannot talk only about my personal experiences, but I found that in situations where I was feeling vulnerable, I feel like women were the first ones to go to me. Like, I don't know, uh, if I fell on the street, I feel like the first person who would come to me would be a woman. Like, I feel like that has happened. And I'm not saying that men are not helpful or anything. It's just that if you have a book that every single female character is mean to the protagonist, and the only good people are men, it paints a picture, and it doesn't paint a pretty one. Specifically because this book, I feel like the whole thing of this book is that it is a metaphor for violence, specifically, I guess, domestic violence, because she's trapped at her home. Why would you have only men in positions of power to be good? And all the women to be that. And I guess in the end, we have some slight camaraderie between her and Risa, but it's very, very small and it's not good enough. And in the same tone that every single woman is mean to her, including the queen, which I mean, I guess the queen would be mad at her because she's a saddle, but I also don't think the queen would actually care that much. I feel like the queen is made to be a very spiteful character. Like, you have a husband, and of course, this husband has done bad to you. We know that, like, Midas is not good to the queen. But you are a queen. Why would you care about his favorite concubine? And I get it because there's golden cages everywhere and stuff, and he shows her off a lot. But I feel like after 10 years, the queen would just not care about it that much. Because in the book, when Orin listens to her conversation, the queen just beats her like badly. Like she gets her guard and just punches, they just punch her in the gut and like pull her hair. And she says like she's sore for days. She complains about being sore for days, and she doesn't even want to tell Midas about it. That's so weird. Why does everyone hate you? It feels cartoonish. It feels Disney princessy. It feels like she's Cinderella and oh, poor her, not a friend in the world. Like her friends are rats. I feel like at this point, Oren's friends will be rats because it feels like everyone is against her. And when we finally get her a friend, it is in the worst possible scenario. Like Oren is traveling, so she travels through the snow, and we have, I guess, 2 to 3 chapters where nothing happens, where they're just on the snow traveling, and she meets people outside of the castle. So besides Midas, who is obviously not a good guy, at least he's morally gray. I think he's clearly the bad guy. We have the king from the other kingdom, and he's of course a slimy guy. He's bald, he's fat, he's a very stereotypically bad guy. We meet the pirates, the snow pirates, which also reading the sentence, the snow pirates are here, sent me like I had to close the book, and I think I took a nap because snow pirates. I mean, bravo on the creativity. Snow pirates is wild. Anyway, we meet the snow pirates, and every single snow pirate is mean. Like every single one of them. There is not one of them that goes, "Ooh, chief, I think we outdone it." No, they are all mean. They are all, you know, and they all just start tearing the women's clothes away in the middle of the snow. I know, I guess they are so slimy. They just can't wait to take the girls' clothes away. But I feel like it sounds a little insane that you're doing this in the middle of the snow so the girls would freeze to death. Because I guess the point is that you want to make them live. I don't know. Very, very weird, like odd, like uncomfortable. I feel like it would be the best word. That these sequences were very uncomfortable. The book made me uncomfortable. It didn't make me feel that uncomfortable because it was so out of place that I don't know, didn't think too much. It didn't felt real enough to me because it was so out of place. And then she has her only friend, who is Sail, die a gruesome death, almost freezing to death, because they were trying to touch her, and he was like, "Don't touch her, don't touch her," and she died. Also, I felt it was stupid for him to die because he was the only person who died. Everyone else was captured. Why did he die? Why did the snow pirates thought, we need to kill this one because she likes him? So again, we're having this very persecuted character, and everyone's like, we need to make her specifically suffer. So we're killing the guy who couldn't even save her. The guy was like basically naked in the snow with his hands behind his back. And then while Sale dies, the only thing he cares about is telling Oren, "Oh no, everything will be alright," which also like how much more altruistic can this guy be? Like he's obsessed with her, he loves her, he's her only good friend. They've met 2 weeks ago, you know. And I know they had a bond, but it felt like she just created this character to tell Oren how amazing she is and then kill him for plot. He felt like a plot puppet, and I don't like that. I don't like when characters are just used to make a point in the story. I feel like there are ways to make a point. I feel like if she wanted to make Oren sad that she lost a friend, she should have made him an actual friend from the beginning, or she should not have killed him. Maybe she could have had something happen to him that would make Oren, freak out because kind of that's the point of it. But I feel like he didn't need to die a gruesome death just to advance the plot because that's what it takes. It takes a man to die for Oren to advance the plot. And when we get to the kind of the climax of the book, which is when the Fey guy, the Commander Rip, appears, uh, every he's the only one that's not cool. Allegedly, like we don't know, she doesn't know, like she thinks he's cruel because of the stories that they tell them, but he's I don't know, he seems kind of neutral. Uh, we just get like a few quick chapters of everything going bad again. Like Oren is captured by the snow pirates, and then they put Sail's body on the mast of the ship because now the ship has a sail, and it's supposed to be very very sad. And I know a lot of people thought it was sad. I felt it was very predictable and odd. Like, do you want us to feel bad for Oren that bad that you're just making everything go wrong in this poor girl's life? Like trust me, she had it bad. She had it so bad that everyone that loves her dies, and no one likes her, and it's like it's overwhelming. It's overwhelming. I feel like this could have been constructed better. And then she freaks out. She dumps Sail's body out into snow because she doesn't want anyone defiling his body, which is a problem I have. She goes out of her way, like she basically risks her life because after Sail was dead, she didn't want anyone defiling his body. This is a key word over here. She didn't want anyone defiling his body. But not 2 to 3 chapters later, Risa gets, you know, and while that is happening, Oren just sits there frozen and doesn't do anything. And I feel like if it was such an important thing to her that no one's body gets defiled, she should have acted first. Like she should have quickly tried to do something to help Risa, especially because we learned that she has the power to turn people solid gold. She should have done this earlier. And I don't mean like in the beginning where everyone could see, because of course that would be a problem. But I feel like the moment the captain locked them and she saw what was going through, she should have done it. Because we just have this absolutely horrifying description of scene, and she's just watching. And I know you get shocked when things happen in real life. I know everyone thinks that they will like, oh, if someone tries to rob me, I will just punch them, but no one does because we get in shock. But she was too slow. She was too slow, and she just kept looking, and we have vivid descriptions of what's happening while Oren is standing still. And the only moment she reacts is when he tries to go for her, and then she has a reaction. It felt weird. Like I don't like the fact that we had a grape scene in the book and it wasn't with the main character because, and I'm not saying that she should have let that happen to the main character. I actually think this didn't add in anything to the book. I feel like this specific scene could have been something else. It didn't have to be all the way. It could have stopped earlier. You know what I mean? But the thing is, she is the gold touch saddle of Midas. She is the most important saddle. She's the one he likes the best. Why would a guy that's the snow pirate, that is the super, super mean, evil guy, take her and another random saddle and decide that he wants to, do the deed with the other girl first if they're at a tight schedule, he would have gone for Oren first. Like, it doesn't make any sense. He would definitely gone for Oren first. And I know that it sounds like I'm trying to make logic of an, intrinsically unlogic act of violence, but it's just that these type of details matter a lot in a book. A book needs to be well constructed, and this book felt wonky in its construction because a lot of things are cruel and don't make sense. And it's not just because something is cruel that it can be senseless. If you're doing something cruel in a book, you need to think about it. You need to think the details. You need to think about the mind of the person that is doing it. Because otherwise it feels like you're manipulating the evil characters to do a thing that fits exactly what you want, and that doesn't make sense, you know? Like it feels like having a character whose only purpose is like world domination, and he doesn't have anything else to go. You know, the pirate, the leader of the pirates, makes no sense. He specifically wants Orin. He specifically wants her. All right, he's a dirtbag. He wants to assault her. We get it. Why would he assault another girl and have her watch? It makes no sense. It's weird. And specifically, because we have such a gruesome depiction of that act, you know, I was pissed. I was pissed at this. I was pissed the way the author chose to do this because I feel like if you don't want to have that on your main character, if you don't want to like have this happen to your main character, in this scenario, I feel like she shouldn't have had it at all. I feel like just having Oren watch Lisa felt horrible, and it felt wrong, and it was really bad. And I've met a lot of people who talked about this and said that this part specifically was really bad for them. And I feel like the reason why would you would put such thing in a book is to make people relate to it, because it is unfortunately something that happens in everyday, and you should be able to see it and be like, well, you can get over it. Like it doesn't end here. You can go through this and you can continue living and you can have a redemption arc. I don't think this has a redemption arc. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen book two, but the way that it happens, it just feels like a punch in the gut. It feels like you're reading a punch in your gut, and you're like, "Wow, I just took a punch. Why did I take a punch? I don't feel like this is going nowhere, and I don't like it." So, my final review of this is the book talks about greed. The whole point of it, it's supposed to be greed. We have like, I feel like even besides him, like we have it saying, oh no, this book talks about King Midas and it shows the dark side of greed. It's not greed, baby. It's violence. Your book talks about violence. Your book talks about cruelty. It doesn't talk about greed. Greed is barely mentioned in this book. We just have violence. And of course, you can say that the way that these men crave these women are like an act of greed, an act of possession, and they are being possessive. I get that. But this book is mostly about violence. And I feel like the violence is put there just to have a shock value, and it doesn't develop as well. That being said, I didn't dislike the book. It was not the best. I will continue reading the series. I think I'm trying. I'm giving my best. But I feel like without these specific acts of cruelty, it would have been a more enjoyable book. Maybe we didn't need all those descriptions. Maybe we could have been, no, maybe a few characters could have been less, gnarly. I don't know. That's my opinion. And I think this was one of the things that made this book be less of a good book to me. My final opinion of this book is that it is an amazing idea. I honestly, like, really, honestly, I really liked the vibe of the book. The vibe of the book is good. The world building is like, not, I'm not going to say like it's not Lord of the Rings world building. It's not super complex world building. We still have, kind of, I'm not gonna lie, it has like an Akatar world building vibe where we have different kingdoms, I mean, ports and stuff. And the fact that they live in a place that's perpetually winter, and I just read Quicksilver, so I was like, yes, I know where you're going with this, but this one was different enough that I didn't felt like it was I was reading the same book, which is a thing that has happened to me. But I feel like that's my fault. I feel like I have picked a selection of books that are very similar, but this one was not the case. This one felt different. The vibe felt different. I feel like it was a good idea. I feel like it had so much potential, and it could have been like a really, really awesome book. Would she have gotten this girl, instead of a golden backbone, perhaps a steel backbone would have been better? Switched up the materials a bit. I had fun, and it was a very easy. I mean, I'm not gonna say light. It was not light. Definitely not light, but it was an easy read. Like I felt like I read this in 2 to 3 days, which was pleasant. I had fun, especially in the beginning. I felt like the beginning was more fun. It had more suspense going on, some plot twists that were very interesting. Like the political side, I feel like is well put together, like surprisingly well put together. It made me really curious about what's going on, and in the end, this book made me curious. I want to read the next one. The second I finished, I was like, well, I'm getting the second one on Kindle. Like, I'm not sure if I want to own it, but I want to read it. I want to know what's up, And I feel like in the end, that's a win, for a book, definitely. Because if I finish a book and I don't want to read the second, not for me. But Guild, because of that, has a solid 3 golden stars. I feel like it's a very solid 3. It's not the best. It's not the book of the year for me. I mean, of course, not the book of the, this book is old. I am very, very late to the party of Guild. I know probably 100 people have said all the things I said, but I feel like it's a 3 star. I don't think it's a 2. I don't think it was that unpleasant, but I also don't think I liked it that much. The 3 is mostly for the world building and stuff, but the characters were very insufferable. With that said, I have good expectations for book 2 because people have told me that it picks up, that it gets better, and that I will eventually end up liking. Apparently, Orin has like a better character development, and hopefully she becomes less unsufferable to read. Uh, anyway, that was my opinion on Guild. Thank you so much for watching and coming this far. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see what I'm reading next. And leave a comment if you like Guild. If you don't like Guild, I would love to know you guys' opinions. So, thank you so much. Bye bye. Go. Oh no. There's gold in my hair. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no.